Chopper test? Chopper isn't the cute mascot, he's the stress test. Look at his first full reveal in Season 2, Episode 6, Nami Dearest. Right around 39:26, Netflix doesn't treat him like a side character, they treat him like a pipeline proof. Voice and facial capture from Michaela Hoover, on-set proxy work from suit performers, and then the final CG pass that has to hold up in close-ups, not just wide shots. And the show quietly flexes the hardest contrast. The face is pure plush toy innocence. Then the body snaps into heavy point strength like a switchblade. That isn't just fan service. It's a demonstration that the live action can sell scale changes, mass changes, even impossible anatomy without cutting away. The medical beats matter too. Chopper isn't only strong, he's competent. Quick diagnoses, steady hands, the kind of character work you can't fake with a gimmick design. It makes him feel real, which is the entire problem Netflix had to solve. Now here's the read. If they can nail Chopper at this level, it suggests Season 2 is a rehearsal for something bigger. More forms, larger bodies, wilder transformations later. Not guaranteed, just suspiciously prepared. If Chopper is the test, which impossible character are they building the tech for next? Ace rushed? Ace isn't coming in gently. The show is lighting the fuse early. Season 2's finale plants the D mystery like it's required homework. In Episode 8, Kureha doesn't just name-drop Roger, she hits the full goal D Roger and forces the Will of D question into the open, right next to Luffy's name. That's not subtle world-building. That's the series telling casual viewers this matters. And Netflix has already made the next move feel real. Season 3 casting openly includes Portgas D Ace, so the theory writes itself. Ace might enter the story already strapped to endgame lore, not as a slow-burn legend you hear about for half a season. That would change his whole vibe. Instead of cool older brother who shows up, he becomes a walking plot device, a timer that's been ticking since Episode 1. It also explains why Season 2 teaches the D mystery now. Why? Because once Ace appears, the story can't afford to stop and explain it. Of course, faster setup doesn't automatically mean faster tragedy. They could just be giving him weight immediately, then letting him breathe. So, what do you want? Ace as a slow myth, or Ace as a ticking clock from the first scene? Shadow Boss. Crocodile barely moves, and that's the point. Season 2 frames Baroque works like an office with a phantom CEO. Then Episode 8 drops the wanted poster reveal. Mr. Zero isn't just some mastermind. He's Sir Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords. Suddenly, the desk villain energy makes sense. He doesn't need screen time when the organization is his screen time. Season 1 already taught viewers the warlord tier with Mihawk. Calm, untouchable, terrifying in 5 minutes. Crocodile is the next rung, but built differently. Not a swordsman flexing strength, a strategist building leverage. Paperwork, politics, loyalty, fear. That's why his absence feels louder than his presence. Every Baroque Works move reads like it's being signed off somewhere off camera. And if Netflix is smart, they'll keep him that way. The villain you feel before you fully meet him. Here's the twisty part. This setup could mean Crocodile isn't just the next arc boss. He could linger as a long-term ceiling for the live-action world. The first villain who changes how power works on the show. Or it could be simple efficiency. Tease him, pay him off, move on. So which is it? Crocodile as the next boss, or Crocodile as the new limit? Alabasta-only. Season 3 might not be island hopping. It might be one war. Season 2 treats Operation Utopia like a headline that won't go away. Episode 8 finally says it out loud. Mr. Zero is meddling with Vivi's homeland for something bigger than treasure, and Vivi frames the next step as urgent. There's a big fight ahead, and it's not a duel, it's a country. Every faction is a fuse. Rebels, royals, agents, marines, and a princess racing the clock. That's why the Alabasta-only theory feels plausible. Civil War stakes, politics, deception, Baroque Works leadership. This is prestige TV material. And production-wise, focusing on one massive location can look bigger than bouncing between smaller sets. More time to build the city, the desert, the army, the rebellion, the scale. It also fixes a live-action problem, compressed pacing. If you keep the story inside one mega arc, you can let tension stack instead of resetting every episode on a new island. But there's a catch. Alabasta is huge. Netflix could just as easily split it across 2 seasons, especially if the budget wants room to breathe and the character roster keeps growing. If Season 3 is Alabasta only, what do you think they'd have to cut to make it fit? Speedrun. They're not speeding through the story, they're speeding up the setup. Season 2 quietly confirms a long-running piece of fandom paranoia. Sabo was in Logtown. Episode 1, the beginning and the end, slips him into the background after Dragon saves Luffy. An explicit cameo that turns a debated maybe into a concrete he was there. That's a big signal. It says this adaptation is willing to canonize the background, not by changing the main plot, but by locking in the hidden connective tissue that makes later payoffs land harder. And once you notice that, Season 2 starts to feel different. It's not rushing emotional beats. It's planting emotional landmines early so the show can move like TV, not like a panel-by-panel recreation. A silhouette here, a name there, a face you're not supposed to recognize yet, until you do. It's the kind of detail you only catch on rewatch. Exactly the behavior this format rewards. The theory is simple. If they confirm that one background truth, Season 3 could make more of those ghosts visible. Cameos that aren't jokes, but foreshadowing with receipts. Counterpoint, a cameo can be nothing more than a nod. A wink for rewatchers, no immediate consequences. Still, if Netflix made Sabo real in Logetown, which background character gets upgraded next? Robin Double. Robin isn't introduced as a mystery. She's introduced as a move. In episode 8, the bounty poster does the reveal for us. Miss All Sunday is Nico Robin. And the visual detail is brutal. An 8-year-old photo staring back like the world has been hunting her since childhood. That's not a new villain card. That's a backstory warning. Then you get the meta clue. The showrunner basically frames her as someone moving the pieces with her own agenda, which means the audience is being trained to distrust her immediately. Not because she's evil, because she's strategic. So the Robin double game theory isn't that she's secretly good or secretly bad. It's that Netflix wants her to feel like a third force, someone who can stand in Crocodile's shadow without belonging to it, the kind of character who survives by letting everyone think they understand her. And you can see the seeds. She's calm when she should panic. She watches more than she talks. She feels less like a henchman and more like a person waiting for the right door to open. The complication is obvious. Own agenda doesn't equal future Straw Hat. It could mean she's playing Crocodile and playing Luffy too. So what's the real game? Is Robin playing Crocodile or is she playing everyone? Smoker turn. Smoker's hunt is built on a bad recording. Season 2 engineers the cleanest misunderstanding possible. In episode 8, Smoker and Tashigi catch part of a transponder snail audio, just enough to jump to the wrong conclusion, not enough to know the truth. And the seed was planted earlier, back in episode 5, when Sanji poses on the call and drops the Mr. Prince line while talking to Mr. Zero. So from a marine POV, the puzzle looks solved. Straw Hats plus Crocodile sound connected. The bias does the rest. Smoker doesn't need evidence. He needs a narrative, and the snail hands him one. Tashigi's silence in that moment reads like the first crack in the certainty. That's why the Smoker turn theory has teeth. The show is setting him up for an arc. Chase first, certainty second, doubt last. Because the moment Smoker learns the recording was a disguise, his whole moral map collapses. Suddenly, the pirates aren't the worst thing in the room. But it doesn't have to flip fast. Netflix could stretch that conflict for episodes. Smoker convinced he's right. The Straw Hat's unable to prove otherwise. Crocodile benefiting from the noise. When the truth finally lands, who does Smoker turn on first? Luffy or the system he works for? Fleet planted. Bartolomeo didn't show up early by accident. Live action rewires his Logetown moment into an origin story. He meets Nami, tries to pickpocket her, stumbles into Luffy's orbit, and accidentally nudges him toward Buggy and Alvida. Then he's there for the execution platform while watching the lightning strike like it's a religious event. And the key beat isn't the chaos, it's the quiet awe. Bartolomeo picking up Luffy's straw hat like it's a relic. That's the kind of framing you use when you're planting devotion, not just dropping a cameo. That's how you justify a future crew of believers, by showing the first believer. One witness becomes a movement. So the theory is, Netflix is building the legend of Luffy from the outside in. Instead of waiting seasons to introduce future allies, they're letting the audience watch strangers become believers in real time. It makes the eventual Grand Fleet concept feel earned on television, where hype has to be visible, not implied. There's an obvious alternative, fan service. A fun character early because it gets the internet talking. But the way it's shot, him witnessing the miracle touching the hat, feels like a seed, not a joke. If they're planting Bartolomeo now, who else is already watching Luffy from the shadows?